That's why. Okay, thank you.
He is a magician.
I'm the amorphous voice today.
You're the voice of
Oh,
God.
okay, maybe over here. I'm gonna be in Linn now.
Voice of God. So.
I don't have to. I think I recorded it.
Oh, that one works too. Okay. And John, do you have a script for the copy of the script for me?
Yeah, I can run it upstairs. Yeah. So give me 1 second here.
Although we can go through we have other business first anyway.
Yeah.
So do we want to call a meeting to order then?
Oh, just a note
6:06
for
p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry, Danny. Just so you know, the mic you're on is a really good mic, so you don't need to get
Close.
too close or get distorted.
Oh, don't get too close. Okay, that's fine. I'll keep it over here.
Okay.
Stay way over there. So let's call the meeting to order at 6:06. Then you'll have to show me how do I see everybody? Or do you want to do a roll call?
There's everybody there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's everyone. That's all. Everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can scroll down here to see.
Oh, there's a mouse. That's always helpful. Okay.
Have John call the roll.
I think John's coming up here. And John will be here in a second. I have it on here.
Okay, the script is heading upstairs now.
Yay. Okay. So John, can you do roll call for us?
Yeah, give me 1 second. What's it?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, give me 1 second here. Let me pull up the list. Are we recording?
Are we recording? I think we are.
Yes, we are recording.
Yes, we are recording.
Okay. Okay. Chair Schreiber.
I am here.
Scott Irwin.
I'm present.
Christopher Owens.
Here.
John Steele. Do not see him present on screen. David Taylor. Also don't see him. Tom Watton.
Here.
James Manning.
Present.
Okay. So I think we have a quorum.
And who else do we have on the call today?
Tim, why don't you go ahead and start?
Good evening. I'm Tim Tofty, and appreciate you guys convening for us and hearing us. We're very excited to get our project to continue our project.
Tim's the property owner for the application tonight. And Jessica?
I'm Jessica Iceland. I'm the architect for the project.
And then Ed?
Ed Trumke from the City Attorney's Office at Jordan Ramus.
Thank you, Ed. And I'm John Floyd. I'm with the Planning Department for the City of West Linn.
And Lynn's here too.
Oh, yes, of course, Lynn's always here. So.
Okay, perfect. Good. So first item on our agenda, public comment related to items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment? I don't see anyone else on here, so I'm going to assume that's a no. Then we have an approval for draft minutes. We have a lot of draft meeting notes that need to be approved. I found a couple of typos. John, I don't know how you want me to handle those.
Let's see here. We could just sort of pull those up here right now if you wanted to.
Okay, so one I noticed on the March 15th, page 2, it's the third paragraph. For paragraph says, Time Toft. I'm guessing we probably meant Tim.
Yes. Yes.
That's a little, little typo.
Tim Tofty,
And
yes.
2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph. Paragraph has down here, the very last sentence, Manning Toft. I believe we meant just Toft agreed to use cedar siding, not Manning.
Correct.
I don't think James did that. I also have on page, this is meeting notes for April 19th, page 2 of 2, item number 7. The last sentence, it says day 8 available at City Hall. I think it meant to say they are available at City Hall.
Correct.
I don't think we ate City Hall.
Not yet.
I think that was my only. Yep, those are my only notes. Anyone else have any other notes or changes or anything else on any of the draft meeting notes from March 15th, April 19th, May 17th, June 21st, June 22nd, or August 16th? All right, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
So Chris Owens, motion to approve. I couldn't tell, was that, okay,
Scott.
Scott said it, all right. So all in favor of approving the draft minute notes from March, April, May, June, and August, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Then that is moved. All right, so we can move on to our public hearing.
I'll abstain though, Danny, because I wasn't part of the group for all of those.
And so we have one abstention then. So James is an abstention. And we have one more, one of our council members has just joined us too, which. Hi. The council chamber. We're all gathered around the one working camera and mic.
Well, thank you, Counselor, for joining us.
All right, so we have our quasi judicial hearing tonight. Good evening. Tonight we are holding a public hearing regarding application number DR 22-08 for a Class 2 historic design review. This is a quasi judicial decision. Unlike in legislative hearings where personal opinion may come into play, quasi judicial rulings must be grounded in the relevant code, and if the applicant meets the code, the board must approve it. The hearing will proceed as follows. After the preliminary legal matters, staff will make a presentation, followed by the applicant, then members of the audience. Finally, there will be time for rebuttal by the applicant. As instructed in the notice of hearing and meeting agenda, those wishing to testify at the hearing should have completed the speaker sign up before noon today. Did we have any? No. Okay.
No.
For members of the public who missed the meeting's sign up deadline but would like to speak on this item, please complete the web form linked in the agenda and notice of hearing. Staff will send you a link as time allows. I now call to order the public hearing I now ask the city attorney to cover the preliminary legal matters.
Thank you, Chair Schreiber.
We
Can
have
you
one
hear me
question really
well?
quickly.
Ed, this is Todd. Sorry to interrupt. Because this is quasi judicial and that old issue of potential appeal, while you're dealing with this issue, should I walk out of the room or should I hang? What's your advice?
Oh,
I couldn't hear what that question was.
Hey, Ed, this is Todd. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but because this is quasi judicial, because of that ongoing concern about appeal, should I step out of the room during this or hang out? What's your advice?
you can sit in. You should not participate in the discussion. If this were to come up to you on appeal, you would disclose that you have heard the testimony at the hearing, and you would then be required to review it in any case on an appeal. So it's entirely appropriate for you to sit in, but don't participate.
Very good. I'll listen and shut up. Thanks.
If only all politicians would take that advice, Counselor. If you'll pardon my snarkiness. Thank you, Chair Schreiber. There are 5 things that we should talk about before going into the substance of the matter. First has to do with burden of proof, the criteria, and appeal rights. The applicant has the burden of proving that the application is consistent with the City of West Lynn's Community Development Code, Comprehensive Plan, and any applicable municipal code provisions. The criteria must be addressed in this hearing are CDC Chapters 19, Chapter 25, 58, and 99. Any argument, testimony, or evidence that speakers give us must be directed at these criteria or some other criteria in the code or comprehensive plan which we believe should apply to the decision. Only those who have appeared before this historic review board in person or in writing will have standing to appeal this item to the City Council. Prior to the conclusion of the first public hearing on an application, the applicant or anyone who takes part in the hearing may request a continuance or may ask that the record remain open to present additional information. If there is such a request, the Historic Review Board may either continue the public hearing to a date certain or leave the record open for at least 7 days for additional written evidence, argument, or testimony. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to allow the board and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval without sufficient specificity to allow the city or its designees to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. The second issue is conflicts of interest. And so I'll ask a question of the members of the board. Do any members of the Historic Review Board wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on. The next is, the third issue is ex parte contacts. Do any members of the Historic Review Board wish to report any site visits or ex parte contacts? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the fourth. Challenges to the review board's jurisdiction. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the Historic Review Board to hear this matter? Hearing none on that, the fifth and final issue is challenges to impartiality of any member of the Historic Review Board. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the impartiality or ex parte disclosures of any member of the Historic Review Board? Hearing none then, Chair Schreiber, that concludes the legal matters.
Thank you. So let's proceed then with the staff presentation. John, I turn it over to you. John, I don't think your mic's on, or at least I can't hear you.
Okay, there we go. So sorry. The button disappeared for a second. So. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. You can see my PowerPoint on the screen. Since I can't see hand raised, please just interrupt me if you have any questions. So once again, for the record, my name is John Floyd. I'm the reviewing planner for the City of West Linn Planning Department. We're here tonight, as Chair Schreiber mentioned, to consider DR-22-08. The project location is 1731 Willamette Falls Drive, also known as the West Linn Saloon. The Historic Review Board actually heard another application on this site back in March and April of this year. And here we go. Okay, so so we're back because the applicant wants to extend some of the work approved in the original application back in April from the front to also encompass the sides and rear, and specifically they want to replace the siding on all of the exposed facades, including the east side and the rear, the south along Knapp's Alley, with the same siding approved on the front, which was 7-inch cedar V-groove siding. The HRB has the authority to approve this new application because the scope of change is too large to consider as a modification to the original permit, and because more than 100 square feet of facade area is being modified, then it bumps this to a Class 2 historic design review, thus establishing the HRB as the proper review authority on this. So there are 4 applicable code chapters that come into play. The core of the matter are chapters 25, which is the historic district overlay zone, and then chapter 58, Willamette Falls Drive Commercial Design District. And my staff report covers findings related to those criteria. Chapter 19, I'm not really going to discuss too much because it's the base zone and no change of use is proposed, and no real change to the dimensions or size of the structure are proposed. So just as a reminder on where the Westland Saloon is located, it's located along Willamette Falls Drive in the Main Street area of the city, and it's in the overlap area between the local Willamette Historic District boundary, which is marked in blue on this map, and the Willamette Falls Drive Commercial Design District boundary, which is marked in purple on this map. So just for, just as a sort of reminder for those who may not have been present back in the spring or don't recall, this is the front facade of the building. Last I was down there, the hanging sign had been removed and the awnings had been removed, and I think there was still some internal work going on. I don't believe the siding work has started, or at least it wasn't last time I was down there. Tim or Jessica can correct me. But
that's correct, John.
Okay, great. So, but this building was built in 1915 in the Western false front style, which is the sort of defining architectural style of the historic district and Main Street area. So neither staff nor the applicant have been able to locate historic photos of the building that would really establish the sort of early original conditions of the structure. So so here's more of an oblique view. The area circled is the area impacted, is a portion of the area impacted by the application. You'll note that the siding in the alley is not consistent with the original historical siding. Staff isn't aware of the history of how that I believe it's plywood siding came to be located there, but again, it's not consistent with the application. The new siding would go in this location as well as the as the second story portion there as well on the dormer. Here's here's a little more slightly closer up detail of the exposed wall in that passageway and the second story dormer. So here's a location in the rear in the inner courtyard area. During a site visit a couple of weeks ago, I observed that the siding is in pretty poor condition and at very least needs to be repaired. And with some areas of replacement, I could see exposed Tyvek there. So I believe it was. And again, here's a photograph of the rear of the structure as seen from the alley. Again, it's pretty weathered and is not in the best of shape. So here's an excerpt of the application showing the proposed elevations. Again, basically all of the siding would be replaced with a horizontal cedar wood siding consistent with the approval criteria within the design district and the historic district, as noted in the staff report. So I think, given this, staff is recommending approval of the application, given the fact that the Historic Review Board has already reviewed the siding replacement on the front, and the applicant is just proposing to extend the same siding treatment around the other facades. Similar to the earlier application, we are recommending conditions of approval. The first two is that are the same as before. Alterations to the building have to conform to the proposal. No exterior demolition or construction may occur prior to the issuance of any required building permits. And then also similar to the front, we are requiring a certain height and level of construction oversight to ensure that the siding replacement does not compromise the structural integrity of the building. And so again, similar conditions are being applied here as are applied to the front in terms of proportion and sequencing of siding replacement. And these conditions were also proposed by the applicant in their staff report. So applicant and staff are in sync here on this. And then finally, the fourth condition is that the paint color just matches that approved for the front of the building as well. So I'm going to keep this pretty high level given how we spoke about this project in the spring. No public comments have been submitted. As I mentioned, staff recommends approval subject to those four conditions. And I think with that, I'll just turn it back over to you, Chair Schreiber.
Are there any clarifying questions of staff before we move on to the applicant's presentation? I don't see any, so let's continue on with the applicant's presentation. Jessica and Tim.
Tim, I'll start and you can join in or fill in if I've missed anything. First, I just want to apologize. We ideally would have had this as part of our original submittal, but at the time it wasn't clear how much we were going to be able to do. And so now we have the ability to do the rest of the building. So that's why we're coming back. The second thing I just want to clarify is that we have asked for full siding replacement of the building. But as Tim walked through the building just the other day, and quite honestly, on the upper level, there may be areas of the dormer that we're able to retain that existing original siding. But if you look at it, even in the photos that John shared on the south or the Naps Alley side, that siding is worn pretty bad. And so we basically want to have the ability to replace the siding with the cedar where we need to and to get it to match. But it sounds like on a couple of the sides of one of the dormers, we can probably retain most of that existing siding. It's in pretty fair shape, but on the Naps Alley side, it's in bad shape. We'll have to replace that. So again, we're just asking for approval of full siding replacement so that we can replace it as necessary. But that's essentially it. We are going to match the siding, match the color. We just want to, as we're doing all of this work and doing these improvements to the building, we want to carry it around the entire building. So Tim, have I missed anything?
No, I think that's it. That's essentially it. We're excited about doing the project. We've been going pretty crazy inside. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to duck inside or not, but there's a whole bunch of cement that got poured into that old building. It's not going anywhere now, and that's nice. And we've sheathed it as required, and are feeling pretty good about how it's looking. We're getting the floor to match up on the inside, which was kind of a big deal, and we certainly want the outside to match all the good work that we intend to do on both the inside and the outside. So we appreciate you people hearing this and what you do for us, and would love you to approve the project for us. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's move on to our public testimony portion. As instructed in the notice of hearing and meeting agenda, those wishing to testify at the hearing must have completed the speaker sign-up form on the website before noon today. Each citizen commenter has 5 minutes to testify. The neighborhood association representative will have 10 minutes. If I call your name, staff will unmute your microphone. And do we have any And John, we don't have any on your any. Okay. So then we can move on from there. So does that mean we can then just close public hearing, I guess, right?
Correct.
So does the applicant, there's no reason to respond, right? At that point, John? There's no applications, no response, so we'll close, I guess, public hearing at that point. And then we can just, I guess we can move to the question of continuances. Is that where we head to, I guess?
Correct. If the, since only the applicant has appeared, only the applicant would have the authority to ask for a continuance if they would like it.
So we have two choices of either request for continuance or no request for continuance. Jessica or Tim, I'm assuming you probably want to continue?
We would like to continue, or not,
Perfect.
like to have this reviewed tonight, have a decision tonight.
Right. Excellent. So then, does the staff have any further comments or clarification regarding this application?
No, not unless anyone has a question.
Does any member of the board have any questions of the staff or the applicant? Not seeing any. So then I guess we can move on to closing the public hearing and having our deliberations. So we'll close the public hearing now. Does any of the board members wish to comment or make any motions about this application?
I will move to approve with the conditions as recommended by staff.
I'll second.
I have a second on the floor. And I believe we can then, do we need to do a roll call vote or how do we do that, John?
Roll call.
Roll call, yeah.
And I will let you have the roll call vote, John.
Okay, let me pull up the list again. Okay, so Christopher Owens,
Aye.
James Manning,
Aye.
Scott Irwin,
Aye.
Tom Watton,
Aye.
and Chair Schreiber.
Aye.
Okay.
So that is unanimous and that is approved. So we'd like to thank all of you who have testified tonight. Your comments have been helpful. Thank you. If you would like to appeal this decision to the City Council, you must file appeal with the Community Development Department within 14 days of signing the final decision.
Mr. Chair, if I may point out, no one appeared, so only the applicant could appeal at this point.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. All right. So that concludes our quasi-judicial hearing and we'll go back to our agenda.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda is an update regarding the Planning and Development Code docket.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give the HRB a sort of broader perspective of some of the planning work happening across the city. And there's actually, and I just want to sort of touch on 3 projects, one of which will be interfacing with the HRB more than the others. And actually, before I forget, there's a 4th one here that not on the list, is that the city council put a revisit of accessory dwelling unit regulations on the planning docket and has prioritized that. So we are actually starting to work on a relook at ADU requirements, size, occupancy limits, height, things like that. Starting with a series of 11 policy questions for the Planning Commission to take up and discuss. Scott's probably may have read the packet for tomorrow, but for the Planning Commission, there's a briefing scheduled tomorrow for the Planning Commission, and then a workshop next month on that topic. So just a heads up that that's coming down the pipeline. In the
John, just for clarification,
Yeah.
I mean, I know when we discussed this last time, the ADU would still be subservient to our existing chapter codes, correct?
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. So where the two conflict, the chapter 25, the historic review standards will control, but there may be aspects where ADUs may be able to get a little bit larger, for example, or the orientation of the door may change. But essentially, chapter 25 will still control where they conflict or overlap. But again, for the remainder of the city, I just wanted to point that out. So I think so that said, the first big project we're working on, and actually Tom and Scott are are on the working group there, are the clear and objective standards project, basically. I think I may have talked to the HRB about this before, but essentially, the way Oregon statutes work and the way they're being interpreted by LUBA and the courts is that wherever you have residential housing allowed or land uses allowed, the review criterion standards and submittal requirements have to be clear and objective in nature. So they either have to be a list, a yes, no, or like a numeric value, for example. In essence, city staff and any deciding authority can't have any discretion in within those standards or requirements. And Ed can jump in here and let me know if I'm veering off too much. But essentially, our development code has a lot of subjective requirements and lack of clarity in some sections. We're not unique. Most jurisdictions in the state are in the situation. And the reason this is important because the remedy basically for an applicant who is suffering from a situation where the standard is not clear and objective, and they feel staff or a review authority is applying the matter too subjectively, they can challenge the standard and basically have it waived. So if we don't convert it to clear and objective, we lose our authority to apply that standard. It's already happened in one case here at the city, in a sort of relatively minor matter, but we're at risk of being challenged more in the future.
John, can I jump in a little
Yeah,
more?
of course, yeah, by all
Yeah,
means.
it's gone even further than that with the clear and objective standards. The Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA, hears the clear and objective standards challenges and is now saying that this is a decided matter. It's not open to discussion anymore. And if a city applies subjective or non-clear standards with discretion to staff or the decision-making body, that it now is awarding the attorney's fees at the Land Use Board of Appeals against the cities and in favor of the applicants if they prevail. So there's a financial aspect to it as well as losing the ability to enforce your codes. So rather than say, a hedge should obscure the view into whatever the building is, it should say the hedge should be 6 to 10 feet tall, something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
It has to be clear and objective.
Mhm.
It isn't hard, but it does cut back on your discretion and your ability to use judgment. And counties, Washington County, for example, appealed one at Luba and lost based on some setbacks from wetlands and wetland protections. So for habitat purposes. So even there, everything has to be very clear and very objective, or it gets set aside and not used at all. So, and John's very right about that.
Thank you, Ed. I did want to mention that there is one big exception to this requirement, which is relevant to the HRB.
Yes.
Is that historic resources are exempted from this. So basically, we can still apply discretion when it comes to like listed properties. So this matter. So the historic, to the degree that the historic district standards apply, those can remain, discretionary only because the nature of historic resources requires some judgment calls in terms of preservation and adaptation. So in terms of the district, those standards aren't being touched. However, we are working to convert the rest of the development code. Wherever the development code touches residential development, we're working to convert those standards to clear and objective language and as content neutral as possible. So we're trying not to really change the standard to change the outcome. We're just trying to make the language more clear. And so, so right now the working group has it. The third, we've been breaking this into chunks, and so we gave you know, Scott and Tom and the rest of the working group about 300 pages at the first package last month, and there's about another 230 pages next week as well. And so at this point, these are drafts. They're in front of the working group. You know, if the working group is comfortable with it, with making a recommendation to the Planning Commission this month or perhaps next month, this would go on to the Planning Commission for further discussion. Probably in January, only because the holidays are creeping in and it's hard to get anything done in December. So, so just a heads up there. I can endeavor to keep the HRB apprised of that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And so again, we are trying to keep these changes as minimal as possible. And so I don't know if Tom or Scott want to mention anything about that work beyond what I've said, but any thoughts on that, guys? So,
It's quite a task, I can tell you that. It's
yeah.
we're just touching on things but I've already because I've got projects in the city of Westland, I'm already recognizing the benefits it's going to have on my side of business level. So it's a lot of work, but I think it's going to be well worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. So, yeah, it's definitely it's a lot of touch points there. So that's the big code project there that sort of interfaces with the HRB. I think another one is the waterfront plan. So that project is being reactivated. So some of you may recall that process from about 5 to 7 years ago. So currently there is an RFP out to hire a consultant to help with this. There were some minor technical issues with that, so we are going to be reissuing those in the next couple of days with some revisions. But essentially, we are going out to in the late teens, just before COVID, there was a lot of public outreach being done about the future use of the waterfront area, which is roughly the waterfront area from I-205 to the former Blue Heron Pond down in the Willamette neighborhood, encompasses the bluffs, PGE's Island down on the falls, Old City Hall in that area. And so basically we're hiring a consultant to help us complete a vision plan based upon historic public comment from the last 5 to 7 years. Take it back out to the public as a check-in to say, hey, does this vision document reflect the years of public engagement we did? Refine it based upon the passage of time, and then recommend zoning map changes and development code regulations for 2 sub areas. This would include the Bridgehead area up around Old City Hall. So in terms of like new zoning and new design standards to sort of reinforce that area and sort of reactivate that area. This would include the Belgravia property behind Old City Hall, which is now a large parking lot area, the historic homes on the bluff behind Old City Hall, and then also to account for some of the transportation changes with the realignment of Willamette Falls Drive and the installation of a couple of roundabouts at the west end of the Arch Bridge. So there's a the Willamette Falls Drive concept plan shows a city-built roundabout around the area of the gas station there, but they're next to Old City Hall. So those changes are coming there, and again, the city has a number of historic resources there, so the HRB is going to be asked to participate in that process. The other sub area we're looking at is the old process pond down on Volp Street, down by the water, down by the river in the Willamette neighborhood. There was a pre-application on that property a few months ago, blinking on the owner's name right now, but again, we're looking at some zoning changes and development code regulations specific to that area. As part of this project, we are pulling together a working group, And so one thing, as part of the working group, we'd like to have a representative of the Historic Review Board on that working group for the waterfront. So you don't have to pick one tonight, but again, if any of you are interested, we'd like to sort of have a member of the HRB in those conversations. So just something to think about. And any questions on that at this time?
What's the timing on that?
It's going to be about a 2-year project. We're imagining adoption by the end of 2024. So we're not going to rush this through. So we're imagining probably somewhere between 6 and 12 meetings, probably maybe every other month for the first, year or so, and then maybe a few more towards the end. But about that level of commitment. But again, we have to get a consultant on board. They have to read the prior documents. They have to pull together a draft vision plan. We then have to do a public engagement plan, which we're hiring the consultant to do, to go back out to the community. So that's going to be about a 2-year process on that.
Be interested in that if nobody else volunteers.
I would like to not volunteer.
Well, you're in a unique spot right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's probably not a good idea that it would be.
Yeah.
John, I would be willing to be on that too if that was needed.
Okay. It's good to have multiple names, so
They can pick and choose.
okay. And again, it's going to be a larger group. We'll also have some at-large positions, things like that. So just trying to get a list of names is always useful. So so there's that. The fourth one I wanted to mention, and
This is Todd.
go ahead.
May I add one thing before you go?
Of course.
Hi, all. Appreciate you being here tonight. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know, but
Yeah.
I hope that the timing of this planning for the waterfront turns out to be very beneficial for the city. Between 3 things that are happening simultaneously, the work that's being done right now on urban renewal district and the potential for having tax increment financing to support this work that this plan is going to be about, with this being done simultaneously. And the third piece being the improvements that John alluded to along Highway 43 in Willamette Falls in conjunction with I-205 widening and Abernathy Bridge. I think these 3 things coming together at the end of 2024, the timing of this planning is really good. In some ways, it's mildly frustrating that we're doing a planning process here, since that's happened comprehensively 8 years ago when we had a plan for the waterfront. But it's the right thing to go back out to the community and plan anew, because after that much time, we owe it to the community to start the conversation with them again. But with these 3 things all happening simultaneously, I think this has the potential to be the coolest thing that's happened in West Linn in modern history for this work around waterfront development. And I'm excited to have you all there being a part of this, because I think this could be really significant for this community in the decade to come. So thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you, Todd. Okay. So and then also I'm the project manager for the waterfront project. So if you have any questions in the future, just feel free to reach out to either myself or Darren Weiss, and we can follow up on that. The other big project where we have an RFP out for is the Highway 43 Land Use and Neighborhood Connectivity Plan. So this kind of builds upon past planning work along Highway 43, Willamette Drive, and to basically to relook at the underlying zoning and how we can better tie in the adjoining neighborhoods with the commercial and community services along Highway 43. So it's a relook at our base assumptions about how the area should be regulated, and development code standards, design standards, and then how we can make it easier for people to get from their homes to the highway there and to access services, restaurants, whatnot. This also overlaps with some of the service enhancements being considered by TriMet right now. So one of which is TriMet is looking at enhancing bus service along Highway 43 to 30-minute headways. And so that would be an improvement of service above existing levels and potentially every 15 minutes as well to make it bus connectivity to Lake Oswego, Oregon City and Portland and beyond a lot easier. So again, this has a similar 2-year time frame. So we're also putting together a working group for that as well. So if anyone is interested in that, I can pass your name along to Chris Myers, who is handling that project. So so we're going to be keeping everyone busy here for a while on that. I think that's about it for the planning projects right now. So any questions? Okay, well, thank you, Chair.
And we'll just move on to items of interest from the board. Any of the board members have any updates or any information? I've got one I wanted at least to mention. I don't know if we're all familiar with the McLean House, and for the last 40 years, the McLean House has been managed and operated by the Friends of McLean House, which is an independent nonprofit here in the city of West Linn. It has come to my attention through my involvement with the Historical Society that the Friends of McLean House are planning on dissolving.
That's correct.
And the West Linn Historical Society made a bid and proposal to take over, basically merge with the Friends of McLean House. But that has not proceeded yet because the Friends of McLean House have not followed through on giving all of the information that the Historical Society has requested, including all of their financials and all of their board minutes and all that information. They basically dropped the ball on that. So at this point, the McLean House will have no management or organization behind it as of October. I believe it was after October 1st, I believe is their date they're dissolving. So we should just note that, because the reason the Friends, if you don't know the history, the reason Friends of McLean House existed is that back in the 80s, the house was falling apart because it was just owned by the city and there was no one managing it. It was just in a series of decay. And the Friends of McLean House created their nonprofit to come in, manage the house, make sure it didn't go into decay and if there wasn't any problems with it. They've done a good job in the last 40 years, but they have since lost interest in keeping that board together. And so it's going to fall back into the city's hands shortly. So just to keep that in mind, and I know the city doesn't necessarily have staff jumping on the board to go ready to run that another building. So that is going to happen. That's just going to sit there. I don't know what the Historical Society is going to do, if the West End Historical Society is going to figure it out, but they're a little frustrated that the Friends of McLean House didn't give any information or any background or anything. They just basically, they're just kind of walking away from the building and washing their hands of it, which has been frustrating for the Historical Society.
Yeah.
So just to let the board know that is happening, and that is something that it is under our jurisdiction because it is a historic property. But there's no decisions being made. It's just that's what's going on.
Yeah, if I could just follow up on that a little bit, Chair Schreiber. So yeah, that is true. Ken Warner is the contact person for this. The city did not get much warning either about this dissolution. So to be fair, I think our Parks Director is trying to figure out next steps. The big thing is just that it's a wedding venue, and to make sure service to those people who have reserved the house for weddings are properly serviced for that. But
that is actually one of the Historical Society's argument, is that the original mandate or the mission of the McLean House is not to be a wedding venue. It was supposed to be a historic property, for use of the public, but not just strictly as a wedding venue.
Of course.
That's why we wanted to talk to the Friends of McLean House to help them transition out of it and make it back into a public resource that could be used to tell the story of the McLeans and the history of the area. But anyway, that'll who knows what'll happen there. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Ken having to now deal with historic property as well now. So. Any other items of interest from the board?
I got this in the mail, and I think it reads really well. Thank you, Lynn. I know, John, you put some time and effort into this thing as well. I don't know, did everyone get one of those? But I
got one. Actually, I got two. Yeah. Somehow I got two.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, nice work.
Thank you so much.
Are there extra copies of that around? Okay.
Yeah. So our intent is, I mail them out to all the historic homes in in Willamette at the end of September. And then we have the postcards, which I think I also sent you. So the intent is to send a postcard reminder in the spring and then, kind of send these brochures out as new people move in, or maybe like on a biennial basis or something like that. So we have them and ready to email them. Mail them.
Good.
Snail mail.
I'll probably grab a couple too, like if you have, because I want to, there's many neighbors who always wander around and go, what's about the historic? And I can just hand it to them.
I'll do that.
Great, thank you for that. That's great. Any other items from the board? Any other items from staff?
Yeah, I'll keep these quick. Just a reminder that this is the time of year when member terms start to expire. So I know we have 2 members whose terms are coming towards the end of it, David Taylor, Christopher Owens. If you're interested in continuing on, we're more than happy to have you. But you do have to reapply to be reappointed to the committee. So there's that. So just announcements, or if you know someone who would be a good member of the HRB, or another CAG, please encourage them to apply on our website. Kathy Molesky, the city recorder, is about to start advertising for that for all of our positions, the planning commission, the parks board, everything. So it's that time of year. I just want to remind people of that. So if you know good candidates or you want to continue on, go ahead and do that. Also, too, I just wanted to say, from my own personal experience, the Arch Bridge birthday celebration was quite fun. I saw Danny there, but he in a much larger fun wedding party. But it was just a great time seeing both cities, the tribes, everyone there just having a good time on the bridge, and it was really fun to experience it without traffic. And the music was amazing on both sides. So otherwise, that's all I have. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, Todd has something too here.
Okay.
I'll be fast so we can say we got you out of here at 7 o'clock. John, this message is kind of for you, but I'm happy to have the Historic Review Board hear this as well. When you were talking about Highway 43, that spurred in me, if you could have a conversation with John Williams, and I will bring this up with him as well, but we've been talking for a while now about taking advantage of a Metro 2040 grant that would assist us financially in this planning. And I know Christine Lewis, our Metro counselor, has been encouraging us to apply for that. So I wonder if Alina Schnarr, our economic development and business support coordinator, might be able to assist with that. But given the work you've described along Highway 43, it might be nice timing for us to jump on that and figure out the timing of the next Metro 2040 grant process and see if we can't get an application in so we can have some Metro resources to support this planning. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Good. Well, anything else? Any other notes from anybody? I think we can adjourn. We're at 6:59 p.m. We beat the 7 o'clock.
Excellent.
Good. And, what's our next meeting date, John?
Next meeting date, if there's an agenda, is going to be November 15th. So far, we don't have any applications that would require hearing by the HRB. In fact, we don't. Nothing yet. So it would be non-quasi judicial matters probably. So.
Okay. So you mean to be even faster than this one?
Hopefully. So.